One of the latest videos to come from Ukraine shows absolute nightmare fuel, specifically dragons. What exactly are we looking at? What is this munition being used? It looks like an incendiary. It looks like it's burning down forests. And is it a war crime? Let's talk about that. This appears to be a quadcopter outfitted with a canister on the bottom that has a thermite mixture in it. Thermite is a combination of aluminum and iron powder, which when ignited creates an extremely hot substance that can be dropped on whatever you don't want to be there anymore, which is exactly what's happening here. Now, under Geneva, this would be regulated by the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, specifically Protocol 3. Protocol 3 discusses the regulation and use of incendiaries. Now, other weapons that would fall into this would be things like flamethrowers, which is a ground-based incendiary, as well as 9M22S. It's kind of a gray area, though. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's go back to these Thermite drones. This would be an airborne delivery platform. Does that airborne delivery platform matter when it comes to the dropping of this munition on forest belts? And I've counted 3 videos of forest belts being burned by this so far. It's also notable that this TTP has apparently been back-pocketed by Ukraine for some time now, because this video specifically shows what appears to be like winter or maybe fall, and they're using this technique. So just an example of Operation Security. We're now all seeing this Thermite drone being used in greenery when in fact Ukraine has been doing this the whole time. I just found that interesting. I forgot where I was. Scripts would be helpful. Article 2 of Protocol 3 of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. We'll start by each paragraph here. Paragraph 1 effectively outlines what a civilian is and lets you know that you can't target civilians with incendiary weapons. That's going to be a running theme across any use of any munition in any war. It's always going to be a war crime to target civilians, no matter what. If there are civilians there, there's an argument to be made that it's a war crime. There's a gray area with incendiaries, though. Paragraph 2 talks about population centers, locations where civilians are present. You cannot, under any circumstances, even if there is a military target, deliver incendiaries via air-based platforms. Any circumstances, none. If there are civilians in or around that military target, you cannot do that. There's some subjectivity there on what around means. I'll leave that up to you to interpret, and I'm not a lawyer. Paragraph 3, this is where it starts to get into a gray area. For other than air-based delivery systems, if there are civilian populations around a military target, you effectively have to make the argument that you are doing everything in your power to mitigate or limit civilian casualties. This is a gray area that's actually very much so hated by a lot of human rights organizations, because it allows still the targeting of population centers using incendiaries, like the use of 9M22S over Mariupol, or any of the other places that's been used on population centers. It's a gray area, and the argument can be made in one direction or the other.
Hello. It's also important to note that paragraph 3 specifically states at the end, damage to civilian objects. So if there's damage to civilian objects that's happening as a result of the dropping of incendiaries, technically it's a war crime per paragraph 3 of Article 2 of Protocol 3 of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. Back to the video. Forgot to mention that. Bye.
Paragraph 4. That's the one that we're focused on specifically. This talks about greenery and forests and trees and brush and all this other stuff that is very much so being burned by these Ukrainian Thermite dragon drones. It is prohibited to burn down or clear vegetation using incendiary means except when either that vegetation itself is a military objective or that vegetation is being used to conceal or hide enemy combatants. This is the case that we're seeing here in all of these videos. The exception set aside for the use of incendiaries. No differentiation between ground or air-based platforms is exactly what Ukraine is doing in this video. The same can be said for Russia's use of 9M22S on Ukrainian positions in a forest belt, which we have video of on the site. So to answer the question about this employment specifically, no, it is not a war crime. It's important to note that you can absolutely employ incendiaries against enemy combatants in almost any circumstance, if those enemy combatants are clearly separated from civilian population. You can flamethrower the ever-loving shit out of somebody if they are your enemy combatant. That there are common misconceptions about war crimes, what is and is not. The use of things like phosphorus, which is very much so allowable. The use of flamethrowers, the use of thermite, the use of magnesium-based munitions. These are all allowable under the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, Protocol 3, Article 2. Thanks very much for being here for this episode. Please, of course, like, comment on the video, all of that happy stuff, and stay informed.
Куда ты полетел?
Что, она загорелась?
Нет?
Сейчас загорелась.
Ниже не опустите ее чуть. Ничего не горит, он не загорелся. Не дымит? Нет. Он не сработал. Ждем. Долго. Трава загорается. Я же говорю, пониже надо было просто. Я понял.
Горело?
Да,
Но она не горит?
горит еще чуть-чуть. Ну и вон чуть-чуть поджег он траву. Поджигай. Что-то ничего не загорается. Горит, горит, поджигает.
Легкая такая стала. Ой, все она. Блять,
Че?
управления нет.
Она загорелась уже, сама птичка.
Да хуй себе, надо сюда, убирай машину, быстрее.
Куда сюда?
Все, повезло.
Туда она упала. Что ты? Нихуя.